Okay, this is Math 1330, Section 1.4. What I'm going to do with these videos is I'm going to read through my notes. And if I've already done this for 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, the reason I'm starting to say that now is because this is the first video for whatever semester this is. All right, so 1.4 tells you the basic graphs you should know. All right, and so these are for the current section. Let me do this. So these are the 5 basic graphs that you should know. Excuse me. Now, I'm going to add a little bit to this that I would normally do in a lecture class. So for this y to the x right here, you also have y to the negative x. So this is y equals negative x. Now, for x squared, this is what all even graphs, so if I had y equals x to the 4th, it would also look like this curve. Now, somebody in the live class this semester asked me to draw, this would be y equals negative x squared, okay? So that's just to give you an idea that if you have a negative, then it goes down. All right, now I'm not going to do that for all of these, but you should get the idea. So there is x cubed and absolute value of x, and here is the square root of x. And those are the 5 basic graphs you will need to know. Now, let me say this. There are 2 more graphs that we will add when we get to chapter 5. Other than these 5, the 2 more, there's one more graph that you need to know, and that is the graph of 1 over x. And so it looks like this. This is the graph of y equals 1 over x. Those 8 graphs are the graphs you need to know for 1331. And I like to give you these just so that you know them. Okay? These 5 graphs are what are talked about in 1.1 or in chapter 1. I don't know if we do 1 over x. I don't think we talk about it other than the fact that you've had some rational functions or fraction equations that you've had to solve. I don't think we do it anywhere else. Things that you need to make sure that you can find are intercepts, max and mins for x squared. We'll do that in chapter 2. So this is chapter 2. Other than doing in chapter 2, we're going to show you how to do it using a graphing calculator later in this section. And intersections, that's all you need to know. Things you need to make sure that you state on your graph is you need to give me the axis, so things to label. So label are your axis, your function, and your graph. Okay, so here I have my axis labeled and my function labeled. What I mean by your graph is this, I mean any important points. So this is points, important points. You need to have those labeled. For these, I didn't have any points labeled. I have no idea what the problem is here. It's just wanting to get rid of that. Oh, I'm in a weird mode. Okay, there we go. All right, application. So here's your first word problem. So it's a parabola, and all of the word problems in this section all of what it's wanting you to do is to use your graphing calculator. My best advice for you here is to Google is to Google mm, so my best advice here is to Google your calculator. Um, and it'll tell you how to do this. Now, my other thing is if it is a parabola, okay, if it is a parabola, then you need to use this is your x value is negative b over 2a. That'll tell you your exact x value. And then to find the y value, you put that x value back into the function and it'll give you the y value. And that's your max. The way you do it on a calculator is you put in, you hit graph, so you're going to hit your y equals key. Okay? And you put your function in. So 10,000 p minus 10p squared. All right? Then when the graph comes up, you're going to zoom in. Now, for this particular graph, it tells you how to make your window. Okay? And for this particular graph, I would let your step be, so how it says, and I meant to look for a calculator emulator, a calculator app for the TI-83, but I hadn't had a chance to. So what you're going to do is on your window is you're going to have your X-min. So your X-min is going to be negative 50. Your Y, your X-max is going to be 150. And then that other one value is how much you're incrementing it by. So what I would increment by for this one is I would increment it by, so that's how much each tick mark means, between each tick is I would do, if you're going from negative 50 to 150, is I would do it by 25, at least. Because if you do it by 1, that means that you're going to have tons of little tick marks there. Okay? And then you're going to do y values. Okay? And you're going to do your y values. And it tells you that your y values, so your E-min needs to be negative 50,000. And your E-max needs to be close to this value down here. So negative to be positive 500,000. So then you're going to want to increment these by, so your Y min is going to be negative, what did I say, 50,000? And your Y max is going to be 500,000, or say 550,000. Because you want to be bigger than this value. And then what you want to increment it by is, I would say, by 50,000. Okay? So that's your scale. Okay, and that's a lot. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to go into calculate on your calc on your graphing tool. And you're going to hit the left side and the right side, and then it'll ask you for a guess. And so you're going to put a guess in. All right, and it's going to come up with something. It may be exact, it may not be. But if you use this is what I'm looking for, is you doing the actual algebra. Then you'll come out with an exact answer. Okay, so here's the algebra. This is an algebra class, not just a calculator class. Okay, and so the algebra would be using x equals negative b over 2a, where b is 10,000 and you have 2 times negative 10. Okay, so that's using the formula. All right. For part B, what you're doing is you're finding e greater than or equal to 0. So you're finding this inequality. You're finding this inequality. So you're going to factor out 10p, and you're left with this. So then you have 10p equals 0 and 1,000 minus p equals 0. So p equals 0 and p equals 1,000. Then what you do is you guess. You pick a value in each one of these regions. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to do this here. And I'm going to pick a value in each one of these regions, and I'm not going to use this. All right, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this. Okay, I'm going to pick a value here, and I'm going to pick 2,000. And I'm going to put 2,000 into this factored thing. 2,000 times 10, is that a positive number or a negative number? It's a positive number. 2,000 in here is a negative number. All I care about is that this gives me a negative number. I don't care about anything but the fact that it gives me a negative number. Okay? I want to pick a number in between 0 and 1,000. I'm going to pick 10. If I put 10 here, right here, I get a positive value. If I put 10 here, I get a negative value. All right? That means, I'm sorry, if I put 10 there, I get a positive value. What's a positive times a positive? That means that in this region, I get a positive value. Okay? That's all I care about. So now I'm going to pick negative 10 right here. So if I put negative 10 right there, I get a negative value. If I put negative 10 right there, I get a positive value. So that means right here I have a negative value. Where am I positive? I am positive right here. So between 0 and 1,000, I am positive. So my answer is between 0 and 1,000. All I care about is the sign. Not the physical number, but the sign. Okay? All right. Now, let me tell you the deal about this example. Everyone has it. It will not be on the test. Copy down the answers. I will not give you a cubic that you have to find the values for. Okay? This is strictly a calculator question. Okay? Here's a cubic. The first part of the question asks, what does 0 represent? 0 represents what does 1900 represent? 1900 represents x equal to 0. What does 2030 represent? It represents x equals to 130. That's what the question is asking. That is part A. That's all part A is asking. Part A says, what is the minimum? What is the max? The minimum is when it's 1900, that's x equal to 0. The maximum is x equals to 2030, and that is when x is 130. All right? Part B is asking you to find the maximum value. So what you would do is you would put this thing into your calculator. You would go into your calculator, put the function. Put this function right here into your calculator. In your graph. You're going to go into your graph. In the graph mode. So where you have right underneath your screen, if you have a TI-84. So here's your screen. Then right here you have y equals, and then you have some other functions. One of those in little blue writing will say calc. That's the one you're going to use. In that calc function, you're going to have a max and a min. One of them you're going to find the max, one of them you're going to find the min. You're not going to do this. That only works for the TI-84 plus special calculator plus C. Okay? This is only special. All right? But the graphing calc, you're going to look for max, maximum, minimum, and it also has an intersection. Okay? Or intersect. I guess it says intersect. Those are the ones you need. You want the maximum, the minimum, and when you have two lines, you want the intersect. All right? If you have those three, those are the ones you're going to need. The maximum, you're going to pick a value to the left, a value to the right, and then a guess. For the minimum, a value to the left, a value to the right, and then a guess. Okay? For the intersection, you're going to use it when you have two curves. You're going to pick one curve, then the other curve, and then a guess. That's how you use them. If I can find an app, I will show you a video over this is how to do your app for this. This is how you'll do your app, but it's only if I can find an app, and that's if I have 2 seconds to rub together. All right? So it's going to be in one of these, above one of these. I know this last one is graph. I think it's this one. I'm not sure, but I think. I don't have my calculator in front of me. Okay? But you're going to find the max or the min. Then you're going to go in and your graph should look something like this. Okay? Pick the one that matches your graph and then write a sentence that best describes, and this is what your sentence should say. Okay? Everybody has this question. This question will not be on your quiz, and it will not be on your test. Okay? But let me say this. I don't have a choice over the homework questions. That is picked to me by the department. I do have a choice over the test and over the quizzes. Okay? Please let me know. This concludes 1.4. All right? Thank you.